Welcome to today's deep dive. We are so glad you're joining us because, honestly, the story we have for you today is, well, it's just wild.
Yeah, it really is.
Lewis Hamilton was literally milliseconds away from an FIA penalty that would have completely, obliterated his home race at the 2026 British Grand Prix.
Oh, absolutely destroyed him.
Right. I mean, he was staring down this devastating drop from the podium all the way down to 14th place. And the only reason he kept his trophy...
Wait, this is the best part.
He was saved by the absolute last person on earth you'd expect to offer him a lifeline, Max Verstappen.
His absolute fiercest rival of, the past decade.
Exactly. So today, we're diving straight into the hidden, behind-the-scenes drama of Silverstone. We're pulling our insights from a really fantastic, detailed breakdown by the YouTube channel F1 Untold.
It's a great breakdown. Really goes into the weeds of the telemetry.
Yeah, it does. And our mission for this deep dive is to uncover how this near disaster turned into one of the most incredibly ironic moments in Formula One history.
Because, the headlines you saw about that race, they only tell a fraction of the story.
Right, just the surface level.
Yeah, if you just looked at the final standings, you'd think Hamilton simply fought hard, recovered from an early penalty, and secured a solid third-place finish.
A normal Sunday.
Right. But the mechanics of how this actually played out in the FIA steward's room are deeply revealing. It shows how the sport operates when the technology we rely on completely breaks down.
Totally. And to understand how a seven-time champion ends up relying on what is essentially a bizarre legal loophole, you have to look at the sheer desperation of his first stint.
Oh, yeah. It was a mess.
Hamilton's weekend was already a complete roller coaster.
Huh?
I mean, he starts third on the grid. You've got Kimi Antonelli on pole for Mercedes, Charles Leclerc in second for Ferrari.
And Ferrari brought that massive upgrade package, remember?
Yes, huge upgrades. And Hamilton is right there in third. But the second the lights go out, Hamilton jumps the start.
And we really need to define what a jump start looks like in modern F1, because it's not a driver rocketing off the line 3 seconds early.
Right, it's not Mario Kart.
Exactly. It is about brutal binary telemetry. Every single grid slot has a sensor pad built into the track surface.
Which communicates with a transponder on the car, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the tolerance for movement before the lights go out is virtually zero. Hamilton just rocked forward by a fraction of a millimeter. Oh. The algorithm catches it instantly. It's not a human steward making a judgment call. It's a computer stating a fact.
Boom. Caught immediately. Within minutes, he is handed a 5-second time penalty, which, he takes on the chin and serves during his first pit stop.
Yeah, but while he's recovering, the race just turns on its head.
It really does. Leclerc snatches the lead. Antonelli's hunting him down, pushing the Mercedes to the absolute limit, and then disaster strikes the youngster.
Yeah, the front left wheel shield failure.
Right. Antonelli suffers that failure, which is huge.
Which, under the 2026 regulations, is catastrophic. I mean, these wheel shields aren't just cosmetic pieces of carbon fiber.
Right, they're not just for show.
No, they are highly specific aerodynamic tools. They're designed to manage the dirty air, the turbulent wake coming off the spinning front tire.
So when that breaks...
When that shield shatters or detaches, you are suddenly blasting chaotic, turbulent air directly underneath the floor of the car and back toward the rear wing.
Just ruining the aero.
You essentially blind the car's aerodynamics. Antonelli instantly lost his downforce, and his race basically collapsed right there.
So Antonelli falls completely out of the picture. And Hamilton, having served his penalty, finds himself clawing back into a podium position.
Against all odds, really.
A dream 10th British Grand Prix win is suddenly floating in the air. Okay, let's unpack this. If Hamilton had already served that first penalty and fought his way back up, why was the entire paddock absolutely terrified of him getting another 5-second penalty at the very end of the race?
It's a great question.
Because normally a 5-second drop usually just costs you a position or two.
Well, in a standard race where the field is spread out over 50 laps, yes. 5 seconds might drop you behind, like 1 car, maybe 2.
Right.
But you have to consider the math of how this specific race ended. The Grand Prix finished under a safety car.
Which changes everything.
Completely. When that safety car deploys, it acts as a physical roadblock. It compresses the entire pack of cars tightly together, nose to tail, driving at a heavily reduced delta time.
They're practically bumper to bumper.
Precisely. So Leclerc is leading, George Russell is second on old mediums, and Hamilton is third.
Right.
But behind them, the entire grid from 4th down to 15th is packed together within fractions of a second of each other.
Oh.
So in a bunched-up field like that, applying a 5-second time penalty to a driver's final race time is a death sentence. That 5 seconds doesn't just drop Hamilton behind the next car.
It cascades him completely out of the points.
Exactly. He plummets straight down to 14th place.
14th place at Silverstone. After taking pole in the sprint on Friday and finishing P2, that vulnerability is what makes the end of the race so terrifying.
Yeah, the stakes were incredibly high.
And to understand how Hamilton almost triggered this nightmare, we have to look really closely at lap 38. Because lap 38 was this perfect storm of mechanical failure, technology failure, and, honestly, human distraction.
It starts with Nico Hülkenberg's Audi. He suffers a terminal technical issue. I mean, the engine just gives up.
Right on the track.
Yeah, and he is forced to park it on the inside of the fast right-hander, turn 9, notoriously known as Cop's Corner.
So there is a literally dead car parked on the apex of one of the fastest, most demanding corners in Formula One.
Yeah, very dangerous.
Naturally, you'd expect yellow flags immediately. But the technology completely fails the drivers here. The source breaks down the replays from Sky Sports F1, and the trackside light panel that Hamilton passes first isn't flashing yellow.
No, it's not.
It is inexplicably displaying green.
Which is wild. A green panel essentially tells the driver, the track is clear, push to the absolute limit.
It is the exact opposite of what you need to see.
Right. Especially when a 2-ton piece of machinery is parked in a high-speed braking zone. And this really raises questions about the telemetry links.
How does that even happen?
Usually, race control hits a button, the GPS sector updates, and the trackside panels flash yellow instantly. But whether it was like a latency issue in the marshalling system or a sector boundary glitch in the new 2026 software, the system failed.
It just flat out lied to him.
It lied to him.
And the yellow warning light on Hamilton's own steering wheel dash, it doesn't illuminate until incredibly late into the sector, right before turn 10.
Yeah, way too late.
That's basically the end of the yellow flag zone anyway. So the trackside tech is displaying green, his onboard tech is lagging behind reality, but that's only half the problem.
Yeah, the other half is...
The other half is breathing down his neck. Max Verstappen.
Right. Verstappen's Red Bull had been struggling with balance issues all weekend, but he had clawed his way up from 7th on the grid.
He was flying.
He was on an absolute charge, challenging for that final podium spot. And on lap 38, he and Hamilton are engaged in a fierce wheel-to-wheel battle going down the hangar straight.
It's vintage Hamilton versus Verstappen. I mean, Verstappen is throwing the car up the inside. Hamilton is defending. Hamilton actually pulls off a decisive overtake, putting the Red Bull firmly in his rearview mirror.
But you know Verstappen.
He never just accepts an overtake.
No, never.
The source notes he was just swarming Hamilton's gearbox. It's like driving on a highway at top speed, intensely staring at your rearview mirror because an aggressive driver is tailgating you, right as your GPS completely misses a hazard ahead.
That's a really good way to put it.
You're so hyper-focused on dodging the danger behind you that you literally cannot process the fact that there's a stalled car ahead. Your brain simply runs out of RAM. But I have to push back here on behalf of the listener. I get the idea of being distracted, but these are the top 20 drivers in the world.
Sure.
They are trained to process a dozen inputs a second. Hamilton is a 7-time world champion. Are we really saying a late steering wheel light is completely invisible just because Max is in his mirrors?
What's fascinating here is the physiological reality of cognitive load and something called peripheral narrowing.
Okay, peripheral narrowing.
Yeah. In high adrenaline, high-stakes environments, the human brain literally changes how it processes vision.
Really?
Yeah. When you are traveling at 200 miles per hour and you perceive an immediate critical threat, in this case, Max Verstappen, your visual processing shrinks. It's often called tunnel vision.
Oh, wow.
Your brain allocates all its RAM to the mirrors because that is where the attack is coming from. Verstappen, being slightly further back and on a different racing line, had a fraction of a second more to process the late yellow light.
So he could lift off.
Right, he lifted off the throttle. But Hamilton's bandwidth was entirely consumed.
Because he knew Verstappen wasn't done. He was fully expecting a trademark Verstappen counterattack into the very next corner.
Exactly that. When you are defending against Max Verstappen, you aren't casually scanning the horizon for a late steering wheel light. especially one that contradicts the green trackside panel you just passed.
Right. You're focused on survival.
You are fixated on defending the inside line. By the time Hamilton's brain processed the delayed yellow indication, he was already passing Hülkenberg's stricken Audi at full racing speed.
Which is a massive safety violation.
Yeah.
I mean, ignoring a yellow flag is not a minor track limits warning. It's a critical offense.
Oh, they take it very seriously.
So the race finishes under the safety car. Hamilton goes to the podium ceremony, smiles for the cameras, sprays the champagne, but then the announcement drops.
Yeah, the dreaded summons.
He's under official FIA investigation for a yellow flag infringement. And you can tell Hamilton knew exactly how bad it was. We have his exact quote from his post-race interview with Sky Sports F1 right after he visited the stewards.
Yeah, it was really somber.
It is such a gloomy, honest interview. He says, verbatim, "I'm probably going to get a penalty. The FIA often have to react. I went through a yellow flag and didn't see it, so a jump start. Yellow flag infringement. When it rains, it pours."
That is a 7-time world champion publicly conceding that his podium is gone.
He was resigned to it.
Completely. Ferrari expected the penalty. The entire paddock expected it because precedent dictates it. This isn't a slap on the wrist offense. It's almost always a strict 5-second penalty, a drive-through, or a grid drop.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the FIA finally releases their official ruling, and it absolutely stuns everyone.
It's a shocker.
Let's break down this document. The stewards acknowledge everything we just talked about. They confirmed the steering wheel light was severely delayed due to a system lag.
Yep.
They confirmed the reaction window was tiny.
Oh?
And they explicitly confirmed that the trackside panel was incorrectly displaying green.
They legally acknowledged that their own marshalling systems failed to provide adequate warning, which is rare.
But that's not what saves him. Drivers get penalized for missing late lights all the time. The rule is usually, you should have seen the incident.
Right, you have to drive to the condition.
Exactly. What saves him is the absolute kicker in the document. The stewards officially accepted that because Hamilton had just been in an overtaking maneuver with Verstappen, he was, and I'm quoting the FIA document directly here, expecting a counterattack, meaning that his attention remained directed to his mirrors for most of the straight towards turn 10.
This raises an important question. Has the FIA ever accepted this excuse before?
I mean, I can't think of one.
Right. How often does a global regulatory body use an opponent's relentless aggression as a valid legal excuse for a safety infringement?
It's basically unheard of.
It is practically unheard of. The FIA explicitly cited Max Verstappen's presence as the reason Hamilton couldn't safely react to a yellow flag. They basically legally codified the concept that Max Verstappen is too distracting.
They basically said, we get it, Max was behind you, your peripheral vision narrowed, you were stressed, we'll let this one slide. The verdict: a simple reprimand, no time penalty. His podium is completely retained.
It is staggering, and you cannot fully appreciate this ruling without looking at the historical irony of exactly where this happened. Turn 9. Copse Corner at Silverstone.
The site of the crash.
The site of perhaps the most defining moment of their entire rivalry.
Yeah.
Think back to 2021. The championship battle is at a boiling point. They go into Copse Corner side by side on the opening lap. They make contact.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Verstappen suffers a 51G impact into the tire barriers and ends up in the hospital. Hamilton gets a 10-second penalty but still wins the race. The bitterness between Red Bull and Mercedes after that crash reshaped the entire modern era of Formula One.
It completely changed the dynamic.
Copse Corner is legendary for being the place where their fierce competition crossed the line into disaster.
And yet, here in 2026, at that very same corner, the sheer, terrifying intensity of Verstappen's driving was the exact legal defense that kept Hamilton out of trouble.
Yeah, it's wild.
The rivalry that once caused a massive collision and a bitter penalty is now the exact thing shielding him from one. It's absolute poetry.
So what does this all mean? Why does this one highly specific steward's decision matter so much for you as a fan following the 2026 season?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is all about the championship math.
Yeah.
This wasn't just about keeping a trophy on a Sunday afternoon.
No, it was way bigger than that.
Hamilton walked into Silverstone chasing momentum in the title fight against his own teammate Antonelli. On Friday, Hamilton got second in the sprint race, earning 7 points. By keeping his third-place finish in the main Grand Prix, he walked away with 15 points. So that's 22 points total for the weekend.
A massive, crucial haul.
Huge. But consider the alternative.
Yeah.
If the FIA had dismissed the cognitive load argument, if they had given him that standard 5-second penalty,
Which they usually do. Right. Because of the safety car compressing the field, he drops to 14th. He gets 0 points for the Sunday race. He leaves the entire weekend with just the 7 points from the sprint. It is a 15-point swing decided by a single sentence in a steward's document.
And look at what that does to the standings. By keeping those 15 points, Hamilton's championship deficit to Antonelli remained at a manageable 32 points.
Manageable, yeah.
If he had been penalized, that deficit balloons to 47 points. A 47-point gap is a mountain to climb, especially against a driver in the exact same machinery.
Oh, it would be almost impossible.
Right. Verstappen didn't just inadvertently save Hamilton's podium by being an absolute menace in his rear-view mirrors. Verstappen practically saved Hamilton's legitimate championship hopes for the entire 2026 season.
It's a brilliant paradox. The driver who wants to defeat him more than anyone else in the world is the one who kept him in the fight.
It is wild to think about. It's a great reminder for all of us, even outside the cockpit of an F1 car. Sometimes context is absolutely everything.
Yeah, that's true.
The very thing causing you the most intense stress, like a fierce competitor breathing down your neck, pushing you to the absolute limit of your mental bandwidth, can sometimes inadvertently be the exact thing that shields you from a much worse fate.
Yeah, without Verstappen hunting him down, Hamilton looks forward, his peripheral vision opens up, he sees the late light.
Maybe misses the breaking point by a fraction of a second and gets a slam dunk penalty with absolutely zero excuse to fall back on.
Exactly.
Verstappen was his alibi.
An incredibly fast, relentlessly aggressive alibi.
Which leaves us with a final, slightly unsettling thought to mull over. The FIA officially forgave Hamilton because Verstappen was distracting him. The psychological reality of human racing overrode the binary rules.
Yeah.
But the source points out that the trackside light panels were still displaying green when they should have been yellow. The steering wheel telemetry was still delayed due to a system lag.
Which is a huge problem.
Yeah. Right, so what happens next week? What happens the next time a driver faces this exact same technology failure? Entering a high-speed corner with a stranded car on the apex, but they don't have a 4-time world champion right on their tail.
That is the danger of setting a precedent based on an anomaly. If there's no legendary rivalry to point to, no intense radar-consuming battle to use as a legal excuse for cognitive overload, will the FIA be as forgiving of their own broken systems?
I doubt it.
Or will some midfield driver, without the luxury of an aggressive alibi, take the fall for a green light that should have been yellow?
It really makes you wonder how much of the sport is governed by the rulebook and how much is governed by the narrative.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We started this deep dive talking about the expectation of engineering precision in Formula One, the idea that everything is binary, clean, and measurable down to the millimeter.
Like the jump start sensor.
Exactly, like the sensor. But as lap 38 at Silverstone showed us, when the technology fails and you throw human rivalry and adrenaline into the mix, you aren't left with precision at all.
No, not at all.
You are just left navigating the murky waters, hoping your biggest enemy might just inadvertently be the one to pull you out. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the data, and we'll see you next time.